Wednesday, April 26, you're watching the polls on the JoyNews channel. Coming up this afternoon, government comes under intense pressure to get the fight against illegal mining back on track as the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice begins its initial assessment of whether or not to mount a full-scale probe into the claims being made by Professor Frimpong Boakye.
We need to a proper investigation as a state that is serious will do.
There's more coming your way from civil society groups mounting pressure on government to act. Also this afternoon, 11 million non-compliant SIM cards may be deactivated by the 31st of May this year by the National Communications Authority.
The subscriber of these unregistered active SIMs have up to 31st May 2023 to complete their SIM registration or have their SIMs deactivated, de-linked from the network.
There's more coming your way from the National Communications Authority as it further gives details of how the national SIM registration is faring. Some schools in the Ashanti region have also been recording low attendance since caterers boycotted cooking for these pupils. We have, of course, a lot coming your way on that, and we'll prosecute any food vendor without an AMA health certificate. Is also coming through from the Senior Environment Health Officer at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, warning food operators after a surprise visit to Rawlings Park this week. I'll bring you an exclusive interaction from the Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Stephen Asamoah Barting, as he reviews the Boko conflict is being tackled assiduously to ensure that the matter is resolved in the shortest possible time. It's all coming up here on The Pulse. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities, Digni Lu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. We're on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. I'm Blessed Sogah, and details are coming your way shortly. Please stay with us. And this afternoon, Ghana's water bodies continue to be destroyed by illegal miners with a lot of impunity. And the activity continues here in the country. The situation is beginning to force, of course, some of our forest reserves to become bare. Analysts say that the verdict is out. A failed fight with the Professor Frimpong Boakye Galamsey report as evidence of the deep political interest that made the entire quest just a mirage. This afternoon, the government is under intense pressure from civil society organizations to get the fight back on track to save the nation. Listen to convener of the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining, Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe.
I'm not too sure as a country we are taking these issues as seriously as they ought to be. You know, this is somebody from the belly of the whale, who has made very, major revelations. And, we've not really seen any movement to this particular one. And apart from Parliament that we've heard from, the CSOs, we've not heard anything from all of them. They're taking too long, to respond. And if you look at some of the current data from the theater of the illegality, it's, the impunity is continuing. I've chanced upon some report on the water quality in the Ankobra, and the level of heavy metals that are in that. There are two patients that I know, one that is dead, one that is still in the hospital, and the level of heavy metal that are in their blood. You know about the reports that came from, about disfigured babies and all of that. And the fact that even our water body is threatened. So I think that we need to be a lot more angrier as a country so far as this particular, canker of the illegal mining is concerned. This is a report that is about, 2 years old, and, we've not seen any action from the executive.
Well, he's not the only one in this. Secretary of the defunct Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Charles Bisiu, has revealed that one of the companies named in the Professor Boateng report was slapped with a $12,000 fine for illegal mining. This is the company with, of course, the issue Professor Boateng claims the president's cousin, Gabi Esari-Otrodako, had contacted him to intervene. Listen to Charles Bisiu on that.
I mean, during the time of the IMCIM, we did a lot of work together. And I think the job that Ken did was good because it kept us on our toes. He was coming from a divergent view and all the time.
And it's good to recollect that there was a groundswell of support. The kind we haven't seen before in 2017, 2018.
Exactly.
The entire media organization was marshaled in support of that effort that the president launched.
Exactly. So I mean, at that time, you could realize that the Interministerial Committee was very vibrant because you had people looking into what we're doing. Now, I am also disappointed, first of all, in Professor Boateng.
Why?
Because things that my question is that would he have come out with, or this report, I'm not sure if he was the one who leaked it, would he have done it if he was still a minister? And the things that...
But because we're not sure he leaked it, then that becomes a moot point, is it not? Because
no, it's not moot.
Considering that this was with the president since 2021,
so it wouldn't be the
nobody knows who exactly leaked it, but it's become a public subject.
So the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, during the time that he was the chairman, he could have dealt with these issues. I think most of them were done. I mean, the report itself, the substantive part is correct. Okay.
Substantive part is correct.
Yes.
Okay.
But the reason why I'm disappointed in him is that he also had people working for him.
And the story goes on and on. In fact, now civil society is beginning to wade in. A senior research fellow at the Center for Democratic Development, Dr. Kojo Pimpini Asante, is calling on government to institute an independent and a transparent investigations into the report of the former Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, Dr. Frimpong Boateng. Now, according to him, the government cannot overlook revelations made by the former minister. He was speaking at an event by the Gimpa School of Law.
What we have to insist is that if government says that it's serious, if the president says he was going to put his presidency on the line, it cannot shirk its responsibility. And all of the revelations that are coming and so on and so forth, it can't be dismissive and say that it's hearsay. This is the cabinet minister that you put in charge of your own committee that you set up and has brought a report. They say, well, it's not on a letterhead, it's not this and that. This was 2 years ago. That is even a worry, that we want to know what was done 2 years ago. Even for you to come to a determination that something is hearsay, you need to investigate it. For me, I'm calling for some independent process to go into this matter. This matter it's not just today. But this report was 2 years ago. So what had been done since then? If at that time government thought it was hearsay, why is it that he kept all the committee and all of those things so functioning? Is it now that we are now coming to think that this is hearsay matters? So we cannot accept what government is saying. Somebody's personal grievances. No. That's not good enough. We need a proper investigation. As a state that is serious would do proper investigation into the matter, where everybody will see the report. Yeah, we talked to this person, we introduced, we went to see, and this person doesn't own anything, all of those things. We want a proper report, not just a dismissing, from a cabinet minister that you or yourself have appointed to oversee the process. No, that's not acceptable.
Well, this is prompting a lot of conversations as to how to ensure integrity in the process of the investigation itself. I want to bring in now Mary Awolana, who is the Programs Manager at the Ghana Integrity Initiative. Thank you so much for your time here on the polls. A lot of issues unfolding. First, there's the leg where, of course, an NDC member of parliament is heading to Shraj, asking Shraj to investigate the matter. Some are equally asking the president to act. And then we have the minority in parliament indicating that they may trigger some processes on the floor of parliament. From the perspective of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, how do we get the public to know what it is that the government intends to do about this illegal mining menace that's going out of hand for many?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers. I believe that this is an issue that we need to pay attention to. Kojo couldn't have said it more aptly. I also believe that others who have been in this fight have collectively spoken out loudly enough about this. We believe that this issue or this particular matter should be discussed, and it should go beyond just Parliament, as Parliament is calling, because for us, we know parliamentary groups have come and gone. We had the health minister's issues. We didn't see much results coming out of there. So an independent probe, if the president actually wants to ensure that people trust him, that he actually put his presidency on the line to ensure that we fight Galamsey, then this is a very fantastic opportunity for him to then determine that even though this report has been 2 years, perhaps maybe he didn't see it. It's possible. We are giving him the benefit of the doubt that perhaps when Professor Prempeh Manso, the very credible gentleman who was assigned the role to lead the fight against Galamsey, presented a report in 2021, perhaps let's give the president the benefit of the doubt that he didn't see it, but now he has seen it. Whoever leaked it has been leaked. That is not the issue. The issue on the ground today is the fact that the president, who has been vested with the powers of the state, who again put his presidency on the line to ensure that the people of Ghana are rid of this canker of Galamsey, then see some results, and then it propels the public trust again in the institution of the presidency. We say so because there have been past allegations that a lot of people are complicit in this phenomenon. And these allegations have stated the presidency, unfortunately our security forces, and others. We had analysis video on it. And so today, if we hear from the veritable professor that he superintended on some of these serious instances, then it's very unfortunate. And if you listen to the responses from the people who have been cited, this even gives more credence to the fact that something more than just a CID investigation or a parliamentary probe has to be done. And they call for an independent probe, bringing together a cross-section of the Ghanaian populace, experts who understand the issues and are credible and respected, would be a very fantastic one. And let me say that the Ghana Integrity Initiative in due course would also be sending out a statement today to state our views on some of the issues that border on corruption and money laundering, which we believe have not been succinctly dealt with. We believe this is a holistic process that has to be done, and we need to attend to it if we want to save our water bodies, and if we also want to name the impunity that is attached to this process in the bud.
We'll tackle the aspect of the corruption and money laundering that you're raising. But just to complete this conversation on Professor Frimpong Boateng, I mean, I've heard the conversation and many have thrown that about, that we need an independent audit into what's going on. But the question is, what significant difference will that bring to what's going on now?
It would bring, number one, trust, because today, the people of Ghana, if you remember in recent past, various surveys have shown that trust in government has waned, significantly waned. If you look at what the Afrobarometer has done, the latest one, and then also from SHRAJ and the Statistical Services point of view, trust in our governance system has waned. And trust in government that it will take action on certain grievances that have come up or certain allegations that have come up is next to zero, less than 30%. And so it portends on our government to show that what citizens believe is not what is on the ground. So that is one. But then also, it's also for government to show that the issues around accountability, because we put people in power to superintend over the state on our behalf as the Constitution has mandated. And so for us, we believe that the Constitution has put you there as president. We voted for you. And so you should be doing things in the best interest of the state. So that is number two. And then we are talking about issues around constitutional governance and also value for money for the various developmental agenda we expect. And so when we see that people are, there is no equity and there is no social justice in the system, then it is a cause for worry for the people of Ghana. And we believe that it is not too much to call on government to do something exceptionally different from what has happened before, which would usually lead to some people being cleared as quickly, even before the investigation results are put out there for the public to know.
Yeah, but the president explains, so sorry for cutting through, but the president explains that the reason for which he's doing that is simply because Professor Frimpong Boateng's report lacks absolute evidence on the matters being raised.
That is unfortunate, to say the least. The president put this gentleman in or as the head of the Galam Stop or as the minister then, and he had a lot of people to work with. So he has the first-hand exposure to the issues he is speaking to, unless, of course, the president says he doesn't believe the veritable professor, which I would have difficulty in believing as well. So for us, we believe that he led the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, and so all the reports came to him. And if you listen to the responses, I particularly note one, which confirmed that the person called this man, and so the man would have some references. So you cannot say that it lacks references or it lacks credence or supporting documentation. The supporting documentation of whatever he's talking about is available. Wherever he put them in his report, which we have all had the opportunity to read. And so the onus now lies on the president to either validate what the gentleman has said or otherwise. Because if he is also made hearsay, as the state, then it is for the president to say he was just conjecturing because he had some exposure with the issues.
Okay.
But if you do not validate this, then how do we validate it? As myself and you in the media, how do you validate it and give credence to it? It is the president who has the power, because all the reports of the Interministerial Committee would have been sent to cabinet, and at the cabinet meetings, the president is there to superintend affairs, and he would have been briefed appropriately. So whatever information this gentleman has, he has presented. Let us add on and let's conclude this process.
I see. There are a number of individuals being named in this report. And so, well, it's not just fair to look at it from the perspective of the president. How about the individuals, government appointees, whose names have made their way into this report? We can talk of, well, not to be fixated on them, but you know a number of names coming up already in this report. What's your expectation from some of these individuals? Are you expecting them to at least step aside, make way for some investigation to run, or you believe they should still be at post while we carry out this independent probe?
As we have called for the probe, and so the normal thing to do, as has happened before, and I continue to cite the example of the PPA gentleman, the president asked him to recuse himself for the investigation to go on. And remember, this investigation was carried out by Shraj. So we do not expect anything less. We have heard some of them come up to respond. And so for me, I believe that the responses alone also then give credence to the fact that there must be some investigation to either substantiate what they are saying or otherwise. Because if, for instance, Kwekubaku would be not a good example because he's not a public officer. But those who are public officers would definitely, they are the people we need to contend with because they are serving us. We put them there to serve the citizenry of the republic to the best of their ability and capabilities. So these gentlemen, if there is any probe, if the president heeds this call and calls for a probe, then it is very important that what the president has done before should be replicated. That does not mean they are guilty when these investigations are concluded. Definitely, it even serves them better, their interests better, because it clears them and it makes everybody in Ghana know that these issues that were spoken to were not right after all.
Now you're equally concerned about, for instance, issues of corruption, allegations that are still hanging around the presidency, and money laundering. Let's start off on the point of corruption. Where lies the concern of the Ghana Integrity Initiative?
There are a lot of issues there. We have issues of abuse of power that have been mentioned in the report. And you know, corruption is the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. And we have heard people calling people to get some people to get away with illegality. And that is corruption, pure and simple. So some of these abuses of power and discretion are not to the interest of the state. And so we are particularly worried about some of the instances that have been mentioned. And particularly when they have to do with security officials, then also having to be cited in this, then it becomes even more worrying. So we see instances where a whole regional architecture was brought into the picture where monies were collected by somebody who was set aside to take those monies and put in a certain account, and the monies were retrieved. That is money laundering, pure and simple, if you look at the definition. And so for us, we believe that things like that, where people were taking monies to allow wrongdoing to persist, and where people were taking money and sending them through other people's accounts, it is a worrying phenomenon. Where did the monies go? And the person put a statement down that he was taking up to about 50,000 for one instance, and he accumulated a lot. So these are instances which can be investigated. And then when public officers are cited, that they say, oh, these are my boys, and so these boys cannot be said to have done this because I know them and trust them, it becomes a difficulty. We are all fallible beings, and we can make mistakes anytime. And so we do not, because I know Blessed, I say Blessed is my boy. I bet him, and so I know Blessed would not do the wrong. I do not go out with Blessed. I don't interact with him when he goes to his friends. And so I cannot 100% of the time say that Blessed is my brother or my son, and for that matter, Blessed can do no wrong in my sight. That is a fallacy of hasty generalization.
Yeah. Indeed, we need to probe the matters, but Mariada will have to leave the conversation here. Thank you for your time here on The Pulse. And of course, we'll be getting back to some more concerns as and when the Ghana Integrity Initiative places its statements out. But government is insisting that it is on course in protecting the forest and water resources, despite coming under intense public criticism and, of course, condemnation for its handling of matters relating to illegal mining in the wake of that explosive report by Professor Frimpong Boateng. According to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Abuja Napo, the government is leading the fight with enough transparency and integrity to deal with the Galamsey menace. The minister gave the assurances at a press conference on the government's preparedness for the 2023 Green Ghana Day celebration.
That you continue to have the assurance of government and the ministry that we are discharging our mandate with integrity and transparency, with candor, and doing all we can to ensure that we keep our environment, we keep our landscape intact, and the integrity of our forest reserve is not compromised. And as you know, the various measures the ministry is put in place to deal with these matters are matters of public knowledge, and these are matters I've spoken to over and over again. And we're very focused on that, and we don't want to be distracted. The forestry sector is one aspect of the mandate of the ministry, but as you quite rightly pointed out, the forestry sector has a relationship with the mining sector, as the mining sector has a relationship with the forestry sector. So whilst we are taking these measures to green our country, we are equally taking measures to protect the forest reserves of our country. And that is the responsibility the President gave me from March 2021 to date, and I've been working hand in glove with the various stakeholders in the ministry, in government, and beyond to make sure that we discharge the assignment given to us by the President, and that's exactly what we are focused on doing.
Okay, the minister has also been touching on the Green Ghana agenda, indicating that government is scheduled to plant 10 million trees across the country on this year's Green Ghana Day celebration, which is scheduled for June 9, 2023.
On the maiden edition of the Green Ghana Day, we targeted 5 million trees. With your support, over 7 million trees were planted. Last year, we raised our ambition and targeted at least 20 million trees. Again, you supported us, and over 24 million trees were planted, bringing the total number of trees planted over the years to in excess of 30 million trees. So far, field assessment report shows that on the average, we had 72% survival rate last year, as compared to 81% in 2021. While adequate measures were put in place to ensure the survival of all trees planted, a number of external factors accounted for the survival rate, including rainfall patterns, wildfires, and soil fertility. Nonetheless, the survival rate shows that we still have some 23 million trees to nurture. It is for this reason that this year, government has decided to revise our target downwards to 10 million trees. This will give us space to devote some resources and attention to the trees planted over the last 2 years, while not losing momentum on our quest to restore our degraded landscape. It is the expectation of government that this year we will receive the usual massive support to build on the successes achieved in 2021 and 2022. We have also decided to organize this year's Green Ghana Day under the theme, quote, "Our Forest, Our Health," end quote, to signify the importance of forests in our lives and to remind us of the many health and related benefits we derive from forests. On this note, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to announce that the 2023 edition of the Green Ghana Day will be held on Friday, June 9th, 2023, under the theme, quote, "Our Forest, Our Health," end quote. Next month, May, the official launch of the Green Ghana Day will be done graciously by His Majesty the Asantehene Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II at the Great Hall of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Kumasi.
Well, there's a lot unfolding in matters relating to illegal mining. The president of the Worldwide Miracle Outreach Center, Reverend Lawrence Tete, has emphasized the need for a collective effort in the fight against galamsey. In his view, the responsibility of curbing this illegal mining menace should not solely rest on the government, but the responsibility of every Ghanaian.
Corruption must not be condoned by any level of our society. And whether we like it or not, today, Ghana, people are not honest, and corruption seems to have permeated into the rank and file of our community. We should not also forget that we have a collective responsibility to stop galamsey. And stopping galamsey has nothing to do with government alone. It has to do with us too, the communities, political leaders, security services, our traditional rulers, our services, and indeed every Ghanaian has the right to stop this menace of galamsey that has destroyed our water bodies. Ladies and gentlemen, we must all be seen to be doing the right thing to protect the evils of our society and also to protect our people and our heritage.
Well, he's also indicating that the NDC and NPP-led administrations have failed in promoting the national agenda.
Shamefully, our two political leading parties have not helped in promoting the national agenda and succession plan for Ghana. It is quite worrying that whilst NDC did not continue with projects led by NPP whilst they were in government, NPP is doing same, not forwarding and promoting and continuing with projects that were started by NDC. For how long would we kill our own and destroy the very resources we all live on? This nonsense must stop. NDC abandoned NPP-led projects and NPP is abandoning NDC-led projects. For how long would this absurdity continue at the expense of our nation? This nonsense must stop. As the Bible states in Proverbs chapter 29 verse 2, the righteousness exalts a nation, and when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. Therefore, we are counting on our political leadership to be mindful in these difficult and trying times, which has affected everyone from all walks of life, regardless of our creed, color, religion, background, tribe, or even faith. It is also regardless of our political colors. If you go to town, whether you are NDC, NPP, or CPP, you buy at the same price. And we need to wake up to the fact that Ghana belongs to Ghanaians, and we all have a collective responsibility to make Ghana right.
Okay, time now to update you on the national SIM card registration. The Communications Authority says owners of unregistered SIM cards have up till the end of May 2023 to register their SIM cards or to avoid their cards being fully deactivated. Director General of the National Communications Authority, Joe Anoche, at a news briefing earlier today, revealed that a little over 6 million SIM cards have already been deactivated from the database of the NCA owing to the failure of the SIM card owners to verify their cards biometrically. Many Ghanaians have lamented the high-handedness of the regulator in enforcing the Ghana card registration regime when millions of people out there are not in possession of the Ghana card. Reacting to these concerns, Joe Anoche indicates that the only way out now to avoid deactivation is for owners of the SIM cards to prove that genuinely they do not have the Ghana card.
Based on the statistics that we showed earlier, there are about 11 million active unregistered SIMs. 11 million active unregistered SIMs. Now, who do these SIMs belong? They belong to exempted SIMs from Ghanaians on national duties outside Ghana, foreign diplomats, refugees. So Ghanaians on active duties outside Ghana, foreign diplomats have been exempted. But there's also recalcitrant subscribers who have Ghana cards but have refused to register. In fact, there's a lot more of them. Some subscribers who have registered some, but not all SIMs. There are a few of us who may have 5 SIMs, but we register 2, and we leave the 3. And of course, subscribers who do not genuinely have what? Ghana cards. How do you address this? One of the things to note is that active mass SIM registration for existing SIMs is coming to a close. Again, I repeat, active mass SIM registration for existing SIMs is coming to a close. As mentioned earlier, we have what? 11 million SIMs which are yet to begin the registration process. So listen to this. The subscriber of these unregistered active SIMs have up to 31st May 2023 to complete their SIM registration or have the SIMs deactivated, delinked from the network. So if you don't go and have the rest of your SIMs, or if you haven't actually done it, you have up to 31st May 2023. The only exemption will be for those I have listed above, exempted Ghanaians on national duties outside, foreign diplomats, and refugees. Subscribers who do not genuinely have Ghana cards will have to prove that they do not have Ghana cards to prevent SIMs being deactivated. The SIM registration exercise will only be for new SIMs from 1st June 2023.
Well, so that's the indication coming through from the National Communications Authority. Meanwhile, some civil society groups are asking the authority to reconsider its registration process. It starts with Stranek asking the NCA to revise its plan. Joining us now is Executive Director for the group, Ni Tete. Later, we'll have the Consumer Protection Agency also join us in this conversation. Ni, thank you for your time here on the poll. So you're asking the NCA to abort its plan, but they say May 31st, that's the end of the story. Ni, you would have to unmute so we can hear the points you're making, sir. Kindly unmute for me.
Yes,
Ni,
thank you very much.
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, sir. Yeah.
So let me say good afternoon to your viewers. Well, the NCA keeps on giving new dates in terms of deactivation of SIM cards who have not registered and all that. We clearly think that the NCA will be non-existent if there are no subscribers. Now, the telecommunications will not function if there are no subscribers, SIM card subscribers. So this is a process that should be continuous. We don't see why NCA should be giving deadlines so that there will be mad rush for registration of SIM cards. We clearly believe that it should be a continuous process, and that alone, would encourage SIM card, holders that indeed this is of great importance. But for them to give a deadline which is even 31st, it's even a short notice. Between now and 31st May, when we have 11 million, SIM card holders who have not registered a SIM card, that should tell you that is a total, a very short notice. And we think that there should be some extension, or perhaps 31st May should be pushed to maybe the end of the year.
Yeah, but how, for how long? I mean, you've always made this point. For how long can we go on asking for the extension of the deadline? Because, mind you, there's data to suggest that each time the deadline comes closer, you find a lot more people going in to register. Once the regulation is relaxed, then we go back to default settings. So why not strictly go by a timeline, and then we have everybody on board?
Well, the point is that in as much as we want to go strictly by the timeline, we are talking about card holders using the Ghana card to register. Can we see that indeed the NIA has provided all the Ghana card, that people have paid for? Research has shown that now it is very, very difficult to even get your Ghana card. Now people will have to, you even need to have Goro boys to be able to get your Ghana card. And the Ghana card is no more free. People have to pay close to 250 Ghana cedi, 300 Ghana cedi to get a Ghana card. And you need a Ghana card to register. So when you are given the deadline, which deadline you give it? When you know that it is not just a matter of registering a SIM card, but a matter of getting the Ghana card to register for the SIM. So what do we do? So clearly, we will keep on asking for extension until we are very much convinced that the NIA itself has put its house to order. And so this particular issue about registration of SIM cards must be hastened slowly, because it is a matter that requires the Ghana card to register for the SIM. And so 31st May is a short notice. If indeed NCA can be very sure that the NIA has put its house to order, and that indeed we don't need Goro boys to give you a Ghana card, and that once you go there, you can have your Ghana card very quickly. You don't have to pay, 200 Ghana cedi, 300 Ghana cedi just to get your Ghana card because you want to register your SIM card. Then we can be talking about deadlines. But one public institution is struggling in terms of production of cards, and you are giving deadlines to register SIM card. You are not being very realistic. NCA is not being realistic.
No, but here's the caveat to the conversation. They're indicating to us now that if you can genuinely prove that you do not have the cards, then you will be exempt from the deadline. Fair deal?
Well, fantastic. Then we can see, but you see, we will keep on maintaining. We will be watching closely how the NCA will find a way of exempting people who do not have the Ghana card. Even that, we are in April. May is just at the corner. 11 million unregistered SIM cards. We clearly will ask for extension, because trust me, even how are you going to prove that you have not registered this? We have not gotten the Ghana card. We will be interested in how NCA would ensure that when you come and indeed claim that you don't have the Ghana card and you cannot register, you'll be exempted. But we will still maintain our stance. It will be prudent that the 31st is extended. Registration of SIM cards must be a continuous process. And we clearly believe that in as much as you are giving deadlines, you must be realistic. And so, well, we will just be watching keenly, and we clearly believe that 31st May should be moved a bit forward, and then we can also make sure that NCA could also liaise with NIA to make sure that issues regarding the acquisition of Ghana card and what have you is found.
But what's giving you reason to doubt the ability of the NTA to push through that deadline?
Well, as I indicated earlier, you need a Ghana card to get your SIM card registered.
Yes, but
so
the belief of the NCA is that these individuals using the SIM cards, they have the conviction that a significant portion of these population indeed have their Ghana cards. All they need to do is to go through the process.
What conviction are they? Where did they get a conviction from? They cannot put their feet on the ground and be sure that indeed that 11 million unregistered SIM card have their Ghana card. Where is that conviction? So you see, that's why I keep on saying that Goro boys are hired to get Ghana card. If you don't even have 300 Ghana cedi to get a Ghana card, you will not get it. So the 31st May, yes, we are sure that by 31st May, maybe the 11 million will be reduced. The 11 million may be reduced, but we are not sure, and we are not optimistic that by 31st May NCA would have 11 million, unregistered SIM card registered. That one is not going to be possible, because yes, in as much as they have that conviction, it is not going to be possible, because there's a problem with NIA. If NIA's problem is fixed, we will not have this issue. And so let us be just we clearly believe that NCA could give a realistic extension. Yes, if they say 31st May, we are here. I'm very sure that you will call again, and perhaps you will bring my stone that 31st May will come, and maybe out of 11 million, we may not get even half, and the half will be that they are struggling to get the car because perhaps they will be asked to pay some amount of money that Guru boys have taken over, and that they do. So extension, because we are requesting for it, is because we understand the system.
Data is already pointing to us that over 69% of the active SIMs that we have 69%, that's a significant number, has been linked to a Ghana card.
Yeah, well, so we are saying that 31st May, in as much as NCA has given that deadline, 11 million unregistered SIM cards, we are very much optimistic that by 31st May, we will not even get 60% of the 11 million unregistered SIM card registered, because we know the root cause of it. And so, yes, we will encourage those who have the Ghana card to register their SIM cards. But we also need to understand that in as much as we encourage those who have the Ghana card to register their SIM card quickly because of the deadline, we also have to look at those who are still struggling to get the Ghana card and come on board. And so 31st is just a short notice. We are in April, and we are saying 31st is just at the corner. It is just at the corner. And as we are speaking now, the telecommunications who decided to set up a table in lorry stations, taxi rank stations, and offices and churches and what have you, they are no more doing that, which means that those 11 million unregistered SIM cards will have to resort to the offices. So we will be back to the same problem.
Right. The last leg of the conversation will definitely border on the mode of identification. Is it time that we revised, the identification document? For now, it's just a Ghana card.
Yes, it is long overdue that we ought to revise the requirement to register a SIM card. We really believe that if you don't have a Ghana card, your passport should be okay to suffice. But it's becoming very, very problematic that even your passport cannot even guarantee. That's what government is saying, that your passport is not even enough to show that indeed it is you. But the passport is more than genuine. It is a passport that takes you, outside the jurisdiction. And so there's nothing problematic with the passport. And so it will be proper that the passport card is concerned. Then we know that, of course, if you don't have a Ghana card, you can use a passport. And I think I'm sure that when NCA opens the window and includes the passport, I'm sure that this issue about 11 million of SSC will be a thing of the past. And we will be optimistic that once the window is opened, definitely the 31st May will not be, well, we will be here to defend that indeed, if you don't have a Ghana card, you have a passport, so you don't have an excuse not to register. But just one card, just that card, if you don't have it, that is it for you. We think that no. The window should be opened. And if we include the passport, and which is very, very,
all right. Right.
Authentic and very, the passport is a document that we can believe that it's authentic. I'm sure that we'll be able to put it over.
Okay. Nita Tete, thank you for joining us. The Consumer Protection Agency is also of the view that a lot more needs to be done to extend the timeline. Kofi Kapito is also joining us on this. Kofi, earlier I was just interacting with Stranek. They're asking for an extension of the time. And there are, of course, conversations surrounding revising the sole document being the Ghana card. I'm not sure government or the Ministry of Communication will bend its rules on that. But from your perspective, can we revise the law, revise the legislation, and at least allow some other forms of identification on this, just to ease that pressure on the 11 million cards we're about to register? Yes, Kofi Kapito.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Kofi Kapito, if you can hear me, I'm just asking if we can go through with the 11 million SIM cards solely using the Ghana card. It appears we're having some challenges there reaching Kofi Kapito, but thanks to Nita Tete and of course Kofi Kapito with the Consumer Protection Agency. This afternoon, some schools in the Ashanti region have been recording some low attendance since caterers boycotted cooking for the pupils. The caterers under the school feeding program have, in the past 3 weeks, embarked on industrial action demanding unpaid arrears and increase in the case of feeding grants. Now, some of the parents and authorities say that the absence of these caterers is affecting school attendance. Lava Films checks, however, indicate that some of the caterers are returning to post in some of the basic schools. Nana Yaobuachi Adam visited some of the schools and came through with this report.
Representatives of caterers from other regions joined those in Ashanti for the press conference. About a week before the group withdrew their services, they received the first term payment of the same year, an amount they say does not cover the full term. Most caterers say they are being chased by the suppliers and banks where they secured loans for the contract. They are unwilling to return to cooking for the pupils.
Mrs. Kwashiga is provoking us that this kind of job is a sacrificial job and is the work of God. And we want to tell her that God hasn't called us to come and preach to the children. And we cannot go and borrow to come and cook for the children for free. We are fed up. We want our money and we want an increment. And they should also stop telling the caterers that we don't have any right to talk. We want to tell her that we have every right because we all work for the government to come to power. And so we need our money. We need it. Without the money, we are not going back to cook.
Many of the caterers were contracted to serve hot meals in schools in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. Some of the caterers are still owed by the government. She says, we were contracted to cook for the pupils in junior high school within the COVID-19 era. We did the work satisfactorily. We were made to add an egg to every meal. To date, some of us haven't been paid. Meanwhile, the caterers are pointing to some anomalies in the school feeding program and have called for an audit.
There are a lot of ghost names, ghost schools. That ghost schools, we want you to go deeper into it and bring that evidence out because there are kululu over there, ghost names, thousands of ghost names. They should stop doing that. They are causing financial loss to the state. We are telling them.
Deductions, the illegal deduction by the Secretariat. Madam is my head of school. She monitors me what I do every day. And she forwarded the information to Accra. Now Accra says that I did not cook. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Our caterers are suffering, and it has a serious political consequences for the government if they will not clean up the Secretariat. Over 11,000 caterers are suffering, and the government says because of one person or two people at the Secretariat, they don't care. Government will live to regret if they don't address this issue urgently.
For JoyNews, Nana Ojima, Kumasi.
And thankfully, Nana Ojima is joining us with more via Zoom. Let's get to understand what's happening now. So is it the case that all the schools are without the caterers as we speak?
As we visited some of the schools today in the region, we realized that it is not all the basic schools in the region that these caterers are absent, but some of the schools, including the state basic school, state experimental school, the Hijab basic school, we saw that some of the caterers are returned back to their various schools to begin work. But it is still, the strike action is still going on. According to their leadership, they are not done with the industrial strike action. But some of these caterers that we went to meet at the various schools did that out of their own will. But then the strike action is still going on. But when we went to some various schools in the morning, we realized that some of the basic schools, as I mentioned earlier, we saw some of their caterers in, and then they are doing their work as they have to.
And we all witnessed that interaction between the Ashanti Regional Minister and some caterers in that part of the country. Of course, he was expressing a lot of frustration about the approach being used by these caterers. Is there any sort of backdoor engagement from the perspective of the Regional Coordinating Council just to try and plead with the caterers to cook for the school children?
The last time we had the regional minister talking about this issue, he was saying that he is going to meet with the leadership of the caterers and then seek more information or more clarity on their demands. We realized that the leadership have been engaging with the regional minister, his office, and then some authorities as well. But as to the outcome of such meetings, we do not know. And the regional minister hasn't come out formally to also talk about this matter. But we know that they have had some form of engagement.
And I see that there's a lot of frustration on the part of the caterers that you're engaging there. What will bring them back to say that the school campuses to cook for these pupils? Is it just the case that, well, if there's no full payment, we're not going back, or they'll at least accept some while they wait for the rest?
I think that we all know the demands of these caterers. They want an increment in their feeding grants, and then the arrears government owes them for the second term of the previous academic year. For the engagement we've had with them, it seems that if government is not settling this thing totally, they are not coming back to cook at all. So they want government to settle the debt and then also increase the feeding grants as soon as possible. I think their demands are as simple as that, and that is the only thing that can send them back to their various schools to begin with.
Okay, then. I will leave it here for now and keep our eyes on that. Thanks for joining us with the latest on this. You're watching the polls here on the JoyNews channel. When we get back, Boko conflict is also on the radar. The new chieftaincy minister is indicating that government is working around the clock to reduce tension in the area. We'll tell you why shortly. Back. Let's take you to the northern parts of the country because the Northern Electricity Company is disconnecting power to the Upper West Regional Hospital over some unpaid 20 million Ghana cedis bills, and we know that the operations at the 226-bed hospital has now been halted. Patients have been left stranded. Of course, the Upper West Area Manager of VRA and NETCO Engineer Francis Yamaso has been expressing some concerns over the situation. Rafik Zam is joining us via Zoom on this. Rafik, first of all, update us on the situation and what's going on there. Rafik, if you can hear me, kindly unmute so we can hear the points you're making. It appears that we're having some challenges getting through to Rafik over there, but the, of course, Volta River Authority and the Northern Electricity Development Company are beginning to disconnect power to the Upper West Regional Hospital. Rafik is back with us. Rafik, let's try if we can hear you now. Why is NETCO running this exercise in the northern parts of the country?
NETCO says that they are embarked on a revenue generation drive, and that's the reason why they have been visiting some government agencies, municipal district assemblies in the Upper West region. Let me put it this way. In the whole of the Upper West area, the consumers of electricity in that area owes 107 million Ghana cedis. Out of this amount, 82 million is owed by MDAs in the Upper West region. and then 1/3 of this amount is also owed by the Upper West Regional Hospital, amounting to about 20 million Ghana cedis. And so the VRNECO embarked on that revenue generation drive. They went to other places last week. That included the disconnection of the Dr. Helen Liman Technical University. And then also today, they were at the Upper West Regional Hospital, where they really were demanding for at least 40% of the amount that they are owing. And so the regional hospital were not able to gather that amount for them, and so they disconnected them. That really left the hospital operations to be halted. You know, this is a hospital that is a paperless hospital. Everything in this hospital is computerized, and so the doctors were unable to attend to patients at the Upper West Regional Hospital. And then also one key area that was not functioning has to do with the air conditioners. The hospital, wherever you go, the walkways and also the inpatients department and also the theaters and including the toiletries are having air conditioning. They're having centralized air conditioning. As a result of that, that's why the hospital is consuming more electricity. Even our checks also revealed that this hospital consumes more electricity than any other hospital in the country, except the 37 military hospital. And we are told that in a month they consume close to about 1.2 million Ghana cedis consumption of electricity. And so one thing that the design of the hospital has not taken into place has to do.
Okay, apologies then.
With the energy efficiency hospital, that is about a 1,000-bed hospital facility that consumes more electricity than a 216-bed hospital in the Upper West Region. And so operations at the regional hospital has come to a halt, and at the moment, there's no light at the facility.
Is there any pledge to settle that amount?
The amount is 20 million Ghana cedis that they are owing, and every month the consumption is about 1.2 million. What authorities are now trying to do is that they need to decouple the administration of the hospital. And also, I'm told that some few months ago, they were able to at least decouple where the doctors and the other critical medical staff are staying from the hospital. Everywhere in this hospital is a state-of-the-art hospital in the Upper West Region. And I tell you that wherever you go in this hospital, there is a centralized air condition. Even Dr. Robert Amesia, in that interview, was lamenting about the issue where you have a patient in a ward who doesn't need an air condition, but who doesn't want the air conditioner to operate, but because of the other patients, you have to keep it on. And so one thing that they are taking into consideration in future, they need to redesign the hospital in terms of how the electricity wires are being run. But for now, every month is 1.2 million Ghana cedis. And then remember also, this is a hospital that started with seed money. In the Upper West Region, they are yet to get seed money. And it's only operate.
Okay.
On the benevolence of the authorities at the hospital.
Okay, then, Rafiq Salam joining us from the Upper West Region. We're grateful for your time. Well, this afternoon, the Senior Environmental Health Officer of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly is warning food operators without health certificates that they will face prosecution. This was after he made a surprise visit to some selected restaurant at the Rawlings Park here in Accra. Inspector Joseph Asitinga indicated that there have been increasing cases of food-related diseases in the Greater Accra Regional Capital. Here's thus urging food operators to adhere to the AMA health regulations. My colleague Prince Owusansa was with him when he paid that visit.
Today's Clean Ghana campaign drill, the sanitation team paid a surprise visit to restaurants at the Rawlings Park in the Central Business District of Accra.
Our purpose of visit here today is to see how you prepare your food, handling, storage, the general environment of your restaurant. We have been here several times, and today I'm sure you will make us happy that we have been visiting you. So the standards that we ask you to do, I'm sure you've done everything put everything in order.
This was a follow-up visit to restaurants the health and sanitation team had previously visited.
Our work is a routine exercise. Once a food industry, we are not supposed to leave the place within 2 weeks or 3 weeks without visiting the place. And every time we visit a restaurant, all the findings that we come across, whether defects, whether good, whatever findings we come across, we make recommendations to the proprietor that per our next visit that we are coming, we want to come to see that you comply with the directive in the notice.
One of the restaurants they visited was lauded for its adherence to the AMA health and sanitation regulations.
So maintain the standards that you put up here, and I recommend that. You see the doors. The next time we'll be coming, I want to see that either you paint it with oil paint or you change it. If you can't change, paint it so that they will look more attractive.
Speaking to JoyNews, the senior environmental officer, Inspector Joseph Asitanga, issued a stern warning to food operators without health certificates that they risk being prosecuted.
Restaurant, whatever product that you are producing that is consumable must reach out to AMA, Metro Public Health, and undergo this screening and test to obtain the certificate. Or else, if we come to your food industry, whatever type of food that you are preparing, provided it is consumable product, and you don't have this card, we will match you to our law court and prosecute you accordingly, because it is a very important requirement that determines the fitness of health before you handle food.
Meanwhile, owner of All Joy Restaurant, Mary Barr, also urged food vendors to also respect rules governing food safety.
Car park. You see people really cooking with fire and all that, you see. So it's the way AMA checks us. We think that they should be on them too. If they feel that they are supposed to be where they are, then they too have to face, this vigorous kind of screening.
The senior environmental health officer of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, Inspector Joseph Asitanga, urged food operators to prioritize the health and safety of their customers by ensuring that all employees possess valid health certificates. A report by Prince Owusu Ansah, read to you.
And back here, Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Samuel Banting, has revealed to JoyNews that the Boko conflict is being tackled assiduously to ensure that the matter is resolved in the shortest possible time in order to avert any further disturbances in the area. According to him, the military is rolling out a conflict resolution plan in partnership with relevant agencies to find a lasting peace to the Boko crisis. He's been speaking to my colleague Samuel Kojubris.
It's been a hectic start to my ministerial job this time around. Luckily for me, I've been around before when I was a local government minister. That was key to understand the grassroots matter and what's happening. And so with the chieftaincy issues, I quickly got to know that it's a major issue that affects our national security. Indeed, the very day I was sworn in, as soon as I went home, I had a call that tomorrow, the following day, there will be cabinet, but before cabinet ends, I'm supposed to be somewhere, an emergency. And so we left Accra out of the jurisdiction of Greater Accra, and we slept overnight, but we talked till 2 a.m. At least we were able to calm them down. I won't tell you the location because we're still talking. Then whilst we were there, I got a call that you have to go to the north to tackle the Boko issue too. So that should tell you that it's not a ministry that you have time to waste or time to think hard. You must have been prepared before you come here. And that is the advantage I have, having been a minister of local government before and having also known the terrain of the country as well as the civil service way of working, so that you just hit the ground and start moving. But most importantly, I believe it's also my own spiritual belief in the power of the Almighty God. in matters like this, you don't just start without prayerful sessions and also understanding that you are not by yourself and you need His Spirit, you need His own agenda, and you also need to commit that you are going to be very honest and direct and be truthful to everybody. And this is what has made me maybe be able to move quicker, because I don't have any prejudices, I don't have any biases. I just want to go in with an honest heart and straightforward approach, and also to understand and listen. In most of these cases, if you don't want to listen, you won't get to know anything. And there are entrenched positions in each one of them, even the ones that seem to be a family matter, where whoever is supposed to be the chief and the other contestant, but if you don't go in and listen, you may be misled by one side. And then you start taking a position and you've messed it up. So that is the terrain I've come into. It's very unpredictable, but it's manageable because of the background I've got and the power of the Almighty and my ability to listen also, and to be humble enough to understand that you are not the solution in a way that you can solve everything, but you facilitate the solution. That's the ministry's job, is to make sure that the chieftaincy institutions themselves, who understand their own customs and their traditions, and you facilitate for them to meet and be able to resolve those matters. That's my approach.
Interesting. With the travels, I'm sure it's afforded you the opportunity to understand the nitty-gritty of issues that contribute to all of these disputes that we do have across the country. What are these issues and how are you planning to resolve them?
The nitty-gritties of those issues sometimes date way back in the colonial times, so you got to understand the history. That's something I have to quickly get through. So if you don't understand the history of the area and how the problem has come to be as it is, you pick up the middle and ignore some people's sentiments, and then you mess up. So one, I have to learn the history quickly, and I've got the advantage of having been in politics for so long that I have a fair idea what's happened in Ghana before. Then secondly, you got to understand the key players involved. Some may have passed away, but they've left some legacies and they've left some words, and you got to understand who are these key personalities and who influence others. So that's another key nitty-gritty. You got to get your head around it. I also realize that you may also notice that whilst they have entrenched position and all that, they are also eager to seek peace. It's an integrity thing that if you don't understand, you think it's all fight and it's all anger, you won't get far, because your mindset is on to problem solving. Yes, it's true, but you got to understand that they themselves are sometimes exhausted. They want somebody to find them the path. And so when there's a new minister who comes in, and I'm new in the ministry, but I'm not new in the terrain, and they know me, and they know that I tackle issues. I don't fudge around it. I don't sweep it under the carpet. My whole life is when my mom taught me that. Actually, I thank my mom for that. She says, Kojo, when there's a problem, try and discuss it. Don't sleep over it. Tomorrow's another day. Don't carry yesterday's problem to tomorrow. So rather than sweep it under the carpet, you got to really understand it. And when you do, no matter how they are in entrenched position, they begin to pull back and listen to you. So those are the kind of nitty-gritties that I have learned quickly. One is the history, two, the key personalities involved, three, also understand their own sentiment that they are exhausted, they want some peace. If you stand outside, you won't notice that they're eager for peace. And I can tell you, when I went to the Mampusi side and I went to the Kusasi side, you could hear the feel of wanting to resolve it. The question is, who leads it? When do we do that? How do we put the issues on the table? Where? What are the timelines? So I keep on, if you heard me on air before in these matters, I keep on talking about roadmap to lasting peace, roadmap. When you begin to put a roadmap, it means they must all be part of the drawing of the roadmap. You cannot sit here and draw a roadmap for them. They must understand that we're heading towards here, to lasting peace, which you both want. Yes, you have your entrenched positions, but as we go along, you must know that you compromise. You will compromise. I'm also aware that I won't push you so far to compromise on your basic core values. I mean, otherwise there's nothing you are holding. And then they would probably go along because you push them, but they are not happy inside them. So let them hold on to it for a while, but they should also know that there must be areas that they have to give in. It's give and take. So the roadmap to peace is not going to be easy, but it will happen. It's a question of time, and the milestones we reach, and we know that we've hit here, this must happen. If it goes beyond that, then there's a problem. Then we go and untangle what the problem is, then we can move on. You can't just gloss over and say, okay, we've hit the milestone, so the next milestone, where is it? Then there are issues you have left behind. That, if you don't solve it, it's a problem. Let me use the Boko one as an example. It's not today it started. And so you got to understand the history. And luckily for me, from the local government point, I do understand it. I used to be very close to the Mamprusi, the Mamprugo overlord. Well, I'm still close to him actually. As local government minister, I was close to the palace. And then the Boko too, I was very close to, if you remember Hawa Yakubu stand. People thought it was a dangerous, but I used to go there with Hawa. Then Adamu Sakande, our late MP2, who's a brother of mine, who lived in London together. So I know the terrain of Boko also very well. And I know they've lived together for a long time. But the issues flare up now and then, meaning there are fundamental issues you got to deal with. So when I went in there, and for the number one I had to do is to go to the overlord. We know the recent issue of the enskinment of a new, into quotes, Boko Naba, which...
When the court has also accepted that the one in Boko is the legitimate chief.
It's been gazetted and the Supreme Court has ruled, and so to do that was like, hey, what's going on here? So obviously, you know, national security stepped in and all that. But I had to go there to see, I called him my father, to see what's going on here. And we did have a very, very frank discussion in closed sessions. Very frank discussions. In all this, I could see he was eager for solutions. And he was happy I was on the scene. He says, I know you tackle it. Then I went to Boko. But even before I went to Boko, I called the Boko Naba himself. I said, I've been to my old man. I'm coming to you too. So you see, once you do that, they know you're not hiding anything. You are being straightforward because you have to go there. And I deliberately chose a week after I went to Nalegu. That's a week, not beyond that. Beyond that, people will start misreading my intentions. But within a week, I said, I'm coming. And I did. And they also opened up. And you could also see, although even in their entrenched situation, they were eager to have the solution to the problem. I said, well, we have a common grounds. I'm here to help you come together. It will be difficult. It will be rough terrain. But once you have the goodwill to arrive at the decision of a lasting peace, we would achieve it. And that's how I left them. But since then, there have been few skirmishes. Even last night, there was some few skirmishes.
So I was going to ask you that once you see the need for them to reconcile, like you said, listening to them, it came across to you that they want to find a solution. And you also told me earlier that you don't sleep over issues. So what are we doing? I mean, it's been some days since you went there. Why have we not been able to strike the chord to then bring about that lasting peace we all want? Because Ghana is spending a lot of resources on this conflict.
Yes, having gone there, I've been on the phone with them, trying to find a way, either I go back or they come here. And I'm putting a sketch of a map together, a road map together. I got to present something to them. And so they are aware. I keep them fully aware. So the next stage is for me to link up with all the interested parties on the ground, as well as the interministerial approach of national security that comes in, defense comes in, local government comes in, and of course the presidency. I got to have a debriefing sessions, and they are fully briefed. So yesterday's skirmish came out of the blue, and then I've noticed another angle which I haven't covered. And I'll cover that, which is the judicial angle. That's where the High Court order, you remember, came through, and I hear another one was sitting was done yesterday, and that also caused some skirmish yesterday. But I'm pleading that let's all calm down. I have said that it's not going to be an easy roadmap. So just let's calm down. Let's not take words and interpret it or misinterpret it. Let's listen to reason that we want peace. And can I just say that I am in the saddle now. So yes, you may hear things from outside. Those who are listening to me in the Boku area, in the Mamprugu area, all over the country. I am in the saddle. By the grace of God, I have the goodwill from you to work. Let's calm down and allow me some space and the time to get you guys on the table. Try and it's not going to be easy. Try and block other news out of your mind. And if there's a problem, approach me and we'll find a way.
After going there, understanding the issues, what timeline did you give yourself to try and resolve the issue? It's been too long a time.
Well, I'm hoping by the first quarter of next year, we would have come to almost signing a peace deal or a lasting peace. I hope. I am praying that the roadmap I'm putting together with them should see us on the table in the next quarter, which is the second quarter, hopefully by end of June. That first meeting may be difficult, but doesn't matter. We've met. Once you see face to face, that's the first step. Sometimes when you don't see somebody, you think they are difficult to deal with. When you meet them, you may realize that you even have something in common. And so that's the first step, is to try and get them to the table by the end of the second quarter, hopefully. Then we'll then work out in the third quarter the real issues that needs to be brought on the table. What are the core ones that maybe you protect it no matter what? And what are the ones you are prepared to give up? Of course, that is something I'll keep to my chest, because you don't want to disclose what they want to give up too quickly. Otherwise, somebody will think you're not being fair to them because you're giving them the game away. So we need to get that, and that will be the most difficult portion, the third quarter. Because then you need to know what are the core ones. Why is it core? Why can't you give that up? And you explain and you, okay, put that one and say, that's a core. Hold on to it. It's your trump card. And this one you're prepared to show us. Okay, then let's move with that. So we iron out the ones, the periphery ones, hopefully by the third quarter. Then by the last quarter of the year, we'll tackle the main one, the ones that they think is untouchable. Why? Bring it to the table. They also bring the table. Hopefully by that time, we should get through by the close of the year, the main issues addressed. Then the first quarter of next year, which is 2024, we will be looking at, okay, from here, how do we plot to end this whole conflict? Why should you keep something and you are giving up something? So this is in my mind what I'm looking at.
Okay. Will it take the lack of the Yana approach where the Asantehene and other prominent chiefs were involved? Is that how you intend to deal with this?
Exactly. That's why I said that I am a facilitator and I'm just guiding them. I'm in the saddle now, but I'm not the know it and be it all. Chieftaincy matters are not politicians, and we don't understand it in a way that they understand it. The customs, the traditions are in their bosom. It's a dignified institution, and we respect it, and we revere it, and we want them to take the first approach in terms of solving it themselves. So whilst I get this roadmap, as I said to you, it's not just me. It's buy-in from the two factions, but also the houses of chiefs. Okay. And indeed, let me say it on record that I have been in constant touch with the president of the National House of Chiefs regularly. Regularly, and we've been talking about it. So he would be in one of the meetings as soon as I get the two sides to agree on something, and then he takes over. He will guide me. Maybe we need some eminent chiefs to come in. I don't know, but I think the chiefs would have a solution. Because this borders two regions, don't forget. Northeast region, that's the Naregu side, and then the Boko side in the Upper East. And so, by the way we work, usually would have gone to the Regional House of Chiefs for their judicial committee to look at it, but it transcends beyond that. So it basically goes to the national. They would guide me, and then I do the facilitation and the logistical solutions for them.
So we expect that at least it will take us a year to deal with this. Now, only yesterday something happened. Within the spirit from this time to next year, what is the strategy to ensure that the peace in the area is at least maintained till the solution is arrived at next year?
Number one is maintain law and order. That's number one. There are some aspects that border on criminalities, and those will be fished out, and national security will deal with that firmly. Beyond that, it's also the issue of open communication channels, and let them be aware that it's not a matter just for talking, it's a real action on the ground going, which is what I've been doing, talking, and making sure they have their issues brought onto the table. And then get the House of Chiefs also to set up their own operational matters in terms of how they want to handle it, so that they are aware who are these eminent chiefs may be involved. Those are the things that will keep the peace. I believe if national security is on top of it, and we get the National House of Chiefs to also let us have an idea who can be drawn in to help solve the problem, they would then have confidence. Then, of course, we need, as I said, the other ministers which I have mentioned to try and also, so they can also be part. At some point, I need to probably travel with some of them to the spot, so they know it's not just one. Yes, I'm the Minister for Chieftaincy, so in the saddle, but I have to work with my colleague ministers.
But Honorable, will we be right to then say that the strategy isn't working? Because just yesterday, there was some sort of skirmishes up there. If they were working, that wouldn't happen. So can we be right to say that this isn't working?
No, really, no, you can't. As I said, it's not going to be an easy road. So these are skirmishes that sometimes may happen because something might have been heard or said somewhere, and people, and that's why I called for calm. That's why I said I'm here. If there's anything, reach out to me. Yesterday was a one-off, I hope. That something has happened. I'm just picking up the details of what really happened, but I hear it's to do with the judicial aspect of it. But we would have a discussion around it and see that is also managed well. So it is part of a very rough road to lasting peace. So I'm not disappointed. I'm a bit disappointed in yesterday, but I'm not saddened in the way that it will disrupt what we are doing. I sort of in my mind know that some few things were not going to go according to the plan, but we'll get back to it. If we get deviated, we'll get back to it. And that's why I call for calm, call for just understanding.
Does Boko give you sleepless nights?
It does. It does. It's not just Boko. Boko does immediately. So it's not just me, the whole government. Don't forget, it's on the borderline with Burkina Faso, and we know the situations in the Mali and Burkina Faso, and of course, national security is our number one job to protect everybody and protect our borders. And Boko being at that center worries all of us. We don't want the situation to spill. But there are others. Yesterday I picked up one in Central Region, which if I don't tackle it quickly too, may also erupt. So you see, the difficulty with chieftaincy disputes is, or the issues are that it's within ourselves, the same Ghanaian people. And we need to talk. We need to be able to understand we are one people. There may be a misunderstanding, but we are in a nation that we want to build together and develop. And so it is worrying to see families fighting against each other and tribes fighting against each other. It's very worrying. And this is where my worry comes from. But once they know that the government is determined to solve it, I think they all appreciate it. I always say that it's also one of the reasons why maybe it's not being tackled the way we wanted it. Last year and a half, maybe my predecessor was not feeling well. I mean, you know, he has not been well, and so basically I have to double up.
You talked about Central Region. We know in Western Region it was even difficult for the House of Chiefs to arrive at a decision to say that this person is president, this person is vice president. I'm not aware if it has even been resolved. Aside that, we know very, pertinent chieftaincy dispute in that region. That region has a lot of these chieftaincy dispute. Central Region has across Ghana. Everywhere you go, you'd find it. It all borders on inheritance, or they call it a family tree. During your vetting, you made mention of coding as a way of trying to deal with that. Where are we with that particular project?
The issues about chieftaincy may be partly due to the inheritance issue, but also land matters. The one in Central Region is land issues, and in part of the Western Region, land issues too. But the codification is one area that also gives us a worry, because that goes to the family itself, down to even one mother or one father, with a splinter in the family tree. And so we have this codification exercise which needs to speed up, but it's logistics. Who are the royals? Who are likely to inherit? Yesterday, one chief in Central Region said to me, but how can it be if I'm the chief and you ask me to do codification, then I will write what is in my line and forget about it. I said, well, it's not just you. You would be consulted, but I've got registrars there. They're supposed to be professionals. And not just the registrars. We got legal counsels with the traditional authorities. Not only that, we also have eminent people in town who have lived over the years, and they know who is a proper royal, who is not. So we do a lot of research work. That's where the research unit in my ministry is so key, and it needs to be resourced. And so they can get to the bottom of it, and it's all because of resources. That's why the codification has not gone far. Out of over 300 traditional accounts, only 6 have done it. And yes, it sounds like it's too low, but it's because of resources. When chiefs meet, you got to find it. There are sitting allowances, the legal counsels, the transportation. You like it or not, you got to find the logistics. And that's why I call on those who have the goodwill to support me. I know central government is doing its part, but my ministry is not the most resourceful ministry in terms of central government budgetary allocation, but I do appeal to goodwill people and other agencies who can be of help. And it's how to support them logistically. So I'm going to put some speed. I'm hoping by the end of the year we can push this from 6 to about 36 or 40. It's still low, but it will be a beginning. One of the things I also have noticed is through the codification, there's supposed to be a training program where the chiefs and the people understand what we're trying to do and know that it will help them themselves. It's not like one-sided, I'm trying to protect my line of lineage and forget the other one. Otherwise, the fight will still go on. So the training aspect is important, and even the elements of the the way the form is designed, if they don't understand it, they cannot even be helpful to you. So it's training that has to happen. Sometimes you see the chiefs need the registrars to help them, or the councils to help them to understand the legal words used, or the legal framework they're operating in. And in some traditional councils, we don't have registrars. There are other areas, there are plenty of registrars. So it's my job to move people around and have the flexibility to let people go and help others. So that is the target, to try and move it to the 40 mark. And then next year will be a full speed, because then others would have been trained, and then we cannot hit the ground running on that one.
Well, some other councils believe that some of your registrars are complicit in some of the things that do happen in these traditional areas. I don't want to mention, but recently, because I'm from a hunter, I've followed how some chiefs in the Hunter Traditional Council have organized press conferences to even call on you to ensure that you remove the registrar there. Why don't you then, because of this foundation or this background of complicity, get a university's research center to then collaborate with the ministry to do this work, which of course will not be, you won't be in the entanglement of having to deal with a registrar who has been accused of being complicit?
Thank you very much. It's a good idea. It's something that I will take on board. The research departments of the universities and tertiary institutions. And maybe sometimes the National Service Secretariat may give us some personnel who may help us. And that's another area that I'm looking at. But in terms of research, it's a good point you've raised. But with my registrars, it's a question of looking at who's doing what and maybe make changes. I've already told them. I called all my registrars 2 weeks ago to Accra, and I told them the same thing, that I'm picking up signals of complicity, connivances, and I'm zooming into them. Those particular Western region, about 3 or 4 have come to my notice. Let me tell you, they may know themselves.
And be sure to watch a playback of that interaction with my colleague Samuel Kojo Brace online and also on all of our social media platforms. But that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I'm Lester Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates on our stories. We'll see you again tomorrow. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz. Please stay.